Hey guys, welcome back. Pardon my manners. The horrors of the story made me forget to introduce myself. My name is Jacob Stan, and I love reading and telling stories to kids of all ages. So, in the last episode, we started diving into Jake's story, how he moved into this suspiciously cheap apartment, only to start hearing creepy whispers at night. Well, things are about to get a whole lot darker. So if you're ready, let's jump right back in. Alright, so where were we? Oh, right. The whispering had become a regular thing. Jake was starting to feel like he wasn't alone in his own apartment. But the thing that pushed him over the edge was what he saw next. It was a few nights later. Jake had been avoiding staying home as much as possible, working late, hanging out at coffee shops, but eventually he had to come back. That night, he was lying in bed trying to ignore the whispers that had started up again. He told himself it was just the wind, maybe a draft somewhere in the apartment, and tried to fall asleep. That's when he noticed it. On the wall across from his bed, a shadow started to form. At first, he thought it was just the street lights outside casting weird shapes through the window. But this shadow wasn't moving like the others. It wasn't shifting with the light or fading in and out. It was solid. Jake stared at it, trying to convince himself it was nothing. But the longer he watched, the clearer it became. It wasn't just a shadow. It was a figure. Tall, unnaturally thin, with long, spindly arms that seemed to stretch across the wall. And it wasn't just standing there. It was moving. Slowly. Like it was shifting its weight from one foot to the other. Jake froze. He wanted to look away, to pull the covers over his head like a kid hiding from a monster, but he couldn't move. It was like his body wouldn't listen to him. He just lay there, watching as the shadow grew darker, more defined. And then it turned its head. Jake swears the thing was looking straight at him, even though it didn't have any eyes. He could feel its attention, like this heavy, suffocating presence pressing down on him. And then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the shadow faded. Jake didn't sleep that night. How could he? He spent the rest of the night sitting on the couch. Every light in the apartment turned on, clutching the baseball bat he kept by the door. He told himself he'd imagined the whole thing, that he was just tired, maybe dreaming, but deep down, he knew it wasn't a dream. The next day he tried to talk to his landlord. He asked if there had ever been complaints about the apartment, strange noises, anything like that. The landlord just laughed and said, no, but there was something about the way he avoided making eye contact that didn't sit right with Jake. That night, the whispering started earlier than usual. It wasn't just faint murmurs anymore. It was louder, more frantic, like a chorus of voices all talking over each other. Jake didn't even bother trying to sleep. He just sat on the couch, gripping the baseball bat, waiting for it to stop. But it didn't stop. At one point, he swore he heard his own name being whispered. Jake. Jake. It was faint, drawn out, like whoever, or whatever, was saying it wanted him to come closer. And then came the footsteps. They were soft at first, like someone pacing in the hallway. But then they got louder, heavier, like boots, stomping on the floor. Jake's heart was pounding as he watched the hallway leading to his bedroom. And then he saw it, a dark shape just at the edge of the hallway. barely visible in the dim light. It wasn't moving, just standing there, watching. Jake gripped the bat so hard his knuckles turned white. He couldn't take his eyes off the figure, terrified that if he looked away, it would get closer. And then it spoke in a voice that sounded like gravel and static. It said, "You shouldn't be here." Jake's blood ran cold. His entire body was screaming at him to run, but his legs felt like they were glued to the floor. The figure took one slow, deliberate step forward, and Jake finally snapped out of it. He ran for the door, threw it open, and didn't stop running until he was halfway down the street. He didn't go back that night. He couldn't. But he knew he couldn't avoid the apartment forever. To be continued. All right, guys, that's where we're stopping for now. Things are getting intense. What would you do if you were in Jake's shoes? Let me know in the comments. And make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the final part of this story. Trust me, it only gets crazier from here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe out there.